Hi, I'm Sheffy. Let me show you what my art looked like a little over 2 years ago. This is a fun little doodle page I made during some of my university classes using OneNote. I didn't really know how to draw back then, and I'd never really tried to learn either. Now let me show you a drawing I made about 4 months later. Somewhere around 2 months after that first doodle page, I actually decided to learn how to draw for real. And this drawing you now see is something I made around 2 months after I started learning how to draw. Now let me show you what my art looked like exactly 1 year later. Hopefully I have your attention now and you'll believe what I have to say. Today I'm going to share with you 6 tips that I have personally embodied and I feel are the reason that I've improved as much as I have in such a short time. Frankly, I could do an entire video on each and every one of these points explaining why they're so important. But for the sake of this video, I'll keep it nice and concise. The 6 tips I'm talking about are: 1. Draw what you like. 2. Return to the basics. 3. Be your own worst critic. 4. Be your own biggest admirer. 5. Make art a regular part of your schedule. And 6. Stay outside of your comfort zone. Number 1. Draw what you like. If there is absolutely one thing you have to do as an artist, it's drawing what you like. It can be anything. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that it has to be something you personally resonate with. As selfish as it sounds, do not draw for other people and do not draw what you think social media wants. You need to draw for yourself. Now I know this sounds obvious, but trust me, it is very easy to get wrapped up in trying to make things you think will get a lot of likes instead of making things that you actually want to make. Social media is great. It allows us artists to put our hard work out there for other people to see. But as soon as you allow social media to control what you create, you will not only hinder your improvement, you will also notice a considerable drop in the quality of your artworks. When you draw the things you want to draw, it is a lot easier to go that extra mile and really put your full heart into that drawing. And if you're able to put your full effort into your art, nothing will be able to stop you from improving. Number 2, return to the basics. When you hit a wall, you don't know what to draw, you don't even feel like you can draw anymore, that's when it's time to return to the basics. I personally started drawing by just learning the most basic human construction methods, and then I just started drawing what I wanted to draw. And I failed, and I learned, and I did better and better over time. For me, doing fundamentals practice has always been something I returned to when I didn't really know how to progress forward. Plain and simple, fundamentals practice is kind of boring and it's hard to get motivated to actually do it. So I find that the best time to do that fundamentals practice is when you really are motivated to answer a question you have. Let's say you've been drawing for a little while and you've noticed that there's something wrong with the way you draw faces. You want to fix it, but you're not exactly sure how. That is exactly the time that you should return to the basics and study up on some facial construction. You should never aimlessly grind out fundamentals practice. You need to do it with a purpose. And then make sure you spend the rest of your time being creative and drawing out those great ideas. Number 3, be your own worst critic. To be your own worst critic does not mean to blindly hate your own art. I think this is a trap that many artists fall into and it can be very difficult to get out of it. To be your own worst critic means you need to critically analyze your own art. You need to think hard about what didn't go well, but also consider the things that did go well. Find even one small thing about your art you think you can improve on, and then try to apply it the next time. On top of that, try to find one small thing you think you did better than ever on this one. So I recently finished a drawing that I wasn't super happy with. I felt unsatisfied with the overall coloring, the clothing design, the prop design, the textures, and on. But I remembered that the real purpose I did that drawing is because I wanted to practice drawing magical effects. And when I realized that the magical effects I drew in that drawing were probably the best I'd ever made up to that date, it really redeemed the drawing for me. I realized that I actually did learn something from that drawing and it was worth it. But I still took note of the downsides and I plan to better myself down the line. The truth is, you yourself look at your art more than anyone else does. So it's up to you to figure out what works, what doesn't quite work, and what you can improve on. Number 4, be your own biggest admirer. Now I know this sounds very counterintuitive to the last point, but I assure you these two mindsets can coexist. But for this point to be possible, you need to understand one important thing. The fact is, there is no one in this world that is as invested in your art and your journey as you yourself are. I mean, you are you. You are making the art. You are the one who's trying to improve. Only you truly know the effort that you've put in to get your art to where it is today. So give yourself some praise. You deserve it. You've come a long way. I know it's difficult, but if you can learn to love your own art, I don't think anything can possibly stop you from reaching your fullest potential. Number 5, make art a regular part of your schedule. Now before I start, I do not want you to misunderstand me on this point. I am not going to tell you that you need to draw every single day, because you don't need to draw every single day. I know I definitely don't draw every single day. It's perfectly fine if you want to take a break and not draw anything for an entire week or two. But if you start to take it beyond that, if the last time you picked up your pen was a month ago, you have to understand that you are missing out on valuable time for improvement. Even worse than that is having a habit of regularly taking long breaks. If you have this habit, you're gonna have a hard time improving. Consistency is key. I guarantee that everyone has at least 5 minutes in their day to put some lines down on paper because it really only takes 5 minutes. And you might surprise yourself that 5 minutes quickly turns into 30 minutes and then an hour. If it's art block that's stopping you from drawing, here's my suggestion to you. I want you to open up Pinterest and just draw the first interesting photo you see. Even better, I want you to take 3 photos that you think are interesting and then mix and match them into one completely original and coherent drawing. That way, you can keep your skills sharp while you wait for the next big idea or inspiration to hit you. Number 6, stay outside of your comfort zone. Now this last point is probably the most important, and it's why I left it for last. So now I'm going to try to change your mindset a little bit. I'm not going to tell you to stay completely outside of your comfort zone, because comfort zones are important. They allow us to sharpen the skills that we already have. Unfortunately though, there is a limit to how much we can achieve by sharpening the skills that we already have. In other words, you have to try something new. So, I'd like to encourage you to stay at least 1 foot outside of your comfort zone at all times. You need to take notice of your strengths and then purposefully go against some of them. Or in other words, take notice of your weaknesses or things you're too scared to try and purposefully force yourself to try them. And be ready to fail, because you have to fail. There's really no other way to learn this stuff. So if you've noticed that you always seem to draw a front-facing or 3/4 angle face, try to side profile for once. But keep everything else that you're doing nice and comfortable. If you've never tried foreshortening, try to bring your character's hand to the camera for once. And if you always draw the same perspective, try bringing your viewing point higher or lower than normal. Now finally, if you take nothing else from this video, I want you to remember this. If you ever tell yourself you won't draw something or you won't draw in a particular way because you're just not ready for it yet, then I'm sorry to say this, but you won't ever be ready for it. So try. Put that cool idea down on paper. Mess up. Fail. Maybe succeed. Surprise yourself even. And with that, I'll see you later.